So here we are in the Adobe Photoshop program. I've got the Essentials workspace selected. Up in this corner, you'll see there's one for photography, painting, graphics, and web. So it just dictates what panels are going to show up in your standard workspace. But you can change that at any time by going to the windows and selecting from this list of panels here. So we'll just grab those as we need them and just work with Essentials for now. I've already opened up some images. You can take a look at those. These are images mostly that I have made some adjustments to in Lightroom using my painting with light technique on this one, for example. And I used some filters and layers to kind of modify this image as well. That's the good thing is you can bring the images in with that already done, so you can work faster once you get into Photoshop. All right, so let's create a new file. File, new. Now there's a bunch of presets under Adobe. They've got, for example, mobile apps. You could go in there and say, hey, I want to do this one for the iPad Retina. And I do like that size, but this one is a vertical format and I really like a horizontal format. So I've saved a preset for myself that does it the opposite way. So there we go. Okay. We've got our document set up and it's good to go. And you can see up here that we are working in the RGB space. We're not working in CMYK. CMYK is what you use if you were going to output these to traditional press. RGB works great for continuous tone printing, like if you're going to send it off to Shutterfly or MPix or one of the photo print shops. RGB works great and also works great for screen. 16 is the bit depth. 16 gives you more colors. Sometimes you have to reduce it to 8 for some of your photo print houses. But on screen, I like to take full advantage of all the colors. So let's go ahead and bring in some of these images into this blank untitled document. So right now, when Adobe brings them in, they become a background layer by default. And you can either uncheck this layer lock right here, or you can go up to layer and new layer, background from layer, and there you go. You've got a layer that you can do things with, like we're going to drag it into the untitled. There we go. There we go. And you'll notice it came in at a different size. That's because the file was shot with a different resolution. So how do we shrink this down? Control minus. It allows me to zoom out. And you'll see when I press down, that control is a command key on the Mac. I'll see how big my underlying image is. So it's quite a bit bigger than my canvas size. And I can modify that. I can go to Edit, Transform, Scale. And now I've got this little box so I can adjust this image. I'm going to hold down the Shift key. That way it stays in proportions, the aspect ratios, so it doesn't get distorted. All right, so I'm liking that size. That kind of fits my canvas kind of well. So let's just accept that up at the top. If you wanted to cancel it, you would hit this button, but we were going to hit that checkbox. All right, let's go ahead and drag in another image. This purple one here looks great. Okay, let's go ahead and free it up by unlocking it and dragging it onto the untitled bin. So there it is. Now, notice it's still there, which means we can go back and drag another copy. We haven't done anything to this file named this up here, nor do we want to, because we always want to be able to go back to our original file. So I'm just going to X that and let it go away because I've already got it dragged into my working Photoshop file, my PSD file right here. And this one happens to be a little bit smaller. So I'm going to go Edit, Transform, Scale, and this time holding my Shift key down, I'm going to scale this image up. Great. Now you'll notice on the right hand side we've got 3 layers. We've got our background layer, we've got that green layer, and the purple layer. And I can turn off the purple layer, there's the green layer. All right, I've got this piece I want to also drag in, so we've got more to play with and work with. I find you almost can't have too much to play with. Edit, transform, scale, make it a little bit smaller, shift, constrain, and that looks good to me. I'm gonna accept that. And what else do I have? Oh yeah, that one, cool. Unlock it, drag it over, drop it, edit, transform, scale, and shrink it down just a bit. Okay, so we're good. Now, we can do lots of fun things. We can blend these modes, we can take pieces, we can make selections, we can play with transparency. So right now I've got this layer on the top. I think I'm going to turn it off from now and just work with these lower layers. I think I'm going to start with this purple layer. I really liked it. I'm going to try to blend it with the below layer, and underneath this panel here are a whole bunch of selections. The first cluster is things that will darken dark pixels. The next selection will lighten light pixels. And this section here plays with contrast. So let's just give you an idea of what that looks like. There you've got the darken effect. And I'm going to undo these so that you can see them one by one. We'll just jump through and maybe do a color burn, show you what that looks like. Can't really see much of the layer beneath. Now I have got my opacity set at 67%. That was left from the last time I was playing with this program. So we can adjust it, you know, just to show what it would look like with less or more of the effect. But I'm kind of wanting to undo that. And I'm going to have to do 2 steps backward now because I played with the opacity. All right, let's try, I might have to go 1 step further back. And you can also always go back to your history in your Windows panel, and that will allow you to go backwards in your steps, because sometimes, you know, you can play around and get pretty deep into it. All right, so now we're back to showing that purple layer with no blend modes on. Let's try exclusion. Ew. Maybe. Might go with that. Let's add this layer on top, and let's give it, well, let's try color dodge. Oops, I'm not on the right layer. So I've got to turn that off and see if I did anything there. I did affect that layer, so edit, step backward. There you go. Had to restore that because I accidentally made a mistake. All right, so now I'm on this layer. You want to make sure you have that layer selected so you're not editing other layers like I did. So vivid light. Ooh, that one's really, Let's step backward. Let's try luminosity. Nah, don't like that. And let's try lighten. I don't really like that one either. Let's try multiply. Nope, too dark. Well, I'll tell you what we might want to do with this is go ahead and modify it with the effect applied. So we can move this layer around by dragging it, or we can modify it by masking it. So I'm going up here to the Marquee Tool, and this will give me, all of these will enable me to make selections on the layer. So I've got this elliptical marquee. It's going to give me some circles. And if I wanted to make a perfect circle, I would hold down the Shift key and I would get circles. If I wanted to make ovals, I could just drag it like that. Now holding the Shift key will add to it. If I let go of the Shift key, it's like a do-over. And you can see the plus, the little plus sign that appears on my handle there. So say I wanted to do something maybe kind of random, some ovals. All right, now I can make a selection by doing edit, I can do copy merged. And what that did is it copied everything inside those dancing ants. I could have done it the opposite way. I could have gone select inverse, and then I would have left holes. Let's try that. All right. So now edit, copy merged. I'm going to create a new layer by coming over here, and there's this little button down here that looks like a sticky note. Boom. I'm adding another layer. And I'm adding it on top of my current layer. And I'm going to go edit, paste. Now, the reason you don't see it is because I had that layer selected. So they matched. So they just all blended together. But now you're seeing the holes, which is what I was thinking I was going to like. I'm not so sure that I do. But you do have those holes to play with. Maybe I will try stretching those. So I'm going to take this layer that's active now, edit, transform, and I'm going to try distorting them. And I can kind of just squeeze them around with that tool. Another tool I can play with, oh, look at that. It gives me some nice dimension. Kind of like that, actually. Might end up going with that. Yeah. Yeah. Gives me a sense of motion, maybe. Yeah, I kind of like that. Yeah, kind of liking that. Maybe make it a little bit bigger. So whenever I feel like it's right, I'm just going to accept the design there by hitting that checkbox. And I can still move it around, but it stops the distortion from happening. And I think what might be cool would be to duplicate this. So I'm going to make sure this layer is selected. I'm going to right click, duplicate layer. Okay, so now I've got two of those to play with, and they're stacked on top of each other, which is kind of neat. I was thinking I would rotate it, but now I'm thinking I might like this better. All right, that's pretty good. I'm going to do another one, actually. Right click, duplicate layer. All right, now I've got yet another copy. And I'm going to flip this one. Edit, transform, flip, horizontal. And that's going to give me circles in the opposite direction. That's not exactly what I wanted. Edit, transform. I'm going to rotate it so that it goes around that way. And that way I can maybe have it come out at an angle like that, which could be pretty cool. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I like that right there. Just kind of line it up. And if any time you want to line things up, you can nudge them with your arrow keys over here. All right, so that's kind of interesting to me. I'm going to accept that.